cousin was a guardian ad litem on one of the people she was a guardian for,
Landing gear
and
retracted.
Mr. Eastman, and he passed. Now, her autistic son never comes up with anything on his own. You know what I mean? He would never say anything out of the norm other than what he would tell you he'd want to eat for today, or good morning, or hello, and that's the extent of his conversations. Well, after Mr. Eastman died, one day, all day, he kept saying, "Hello, Mr. Eastman. Hello, Mr. Eastman."
Well, that's fucked.
And we were freaking out. We're like, "What the hell?" You know? Because I mean, even if you say hello to somebody and they're not there, he will be confused, and you will have to prod and prod and prod at him to make him say or repeat you eventually. But you really got to prod at him to do it, and for him to be walking around saying that, we were like looking at each other like, what in the hell?
I like what Mage Grey Wolf just said. My uncle, it just screwed up. My uncle lived in a haunted house. You would hear people in empty rooms, and doors would open and close by themselves. Now, when you got doors opening and closing by themselves, that's when you're dealing with something that can affect the physical world, and that's a little more powerful and more poltergeisty, which is always a good way of a gauge of power. What can you do if I fuck with you a little bit? Are you going to get mad? Are you going to throw something? Are you going to burn something? What can you do? Can you make the lights flicker on and off? That's step one. You can't do that. You ain't haunting me. You're not good enough.
The house I live in South Hollywood, Florida. I had my cousin's autistic son with me for about a year, and there was a man that lived there before the house went on the market. I don't recall his name, but we've seen him. See, that her son was around once again.
Yeah, but is it like benevolent, or is it more of a
It was not
uneasy?
benevolent. No, it was no, it wasn't even uneasy. Because then I was there by myself for several years, and you would hear. This was like the beginning, the first couple of years I lived there. After a while, it just disappeared. But you'd hear. I'm talking banging would wake me up, banging. And I mean, I'd get up, I'd walk, I'd be pissed, you know, because I had to work in the morning. I'd get up, I'd walk outside all around, I'd be mad. Come outside with my gun looking for somebody, you know, check the garage, check everywhere, you can't find nothing. And then one day, my cousin and another one of her friends came in, and I was sleeping, we were all sleeping, and the banging started again. And my cousin comes in, she just throws my bedroom door open. She's like, and I look at her like, what? You know, she's like, can't you hear that? I'm like, yeah. Aren't you afraid? I'm like, imagine being here by yourself and hearing that. She's like, oh, hell no. And she thought it was coming from one direction. I thought it was coming from the other direction. And her friend was sleeping out on our couch, thought it was coming out from the garage. She could not pinpoint where that sound was coming from either. It sounded like it was in the walls. That went on for a while until I woke up one night, like, you know, I'd get to bed like around 10 o'clock, and it would start, you know, between 11 bang, bang, bang. One night I got up, just was pissed, and I was tired, and night after night I woke up and it was banging. I just started yelling at it. I don't give a shit when you knock, and as soon as my head hits this pillow, I don't hear a peep. I gotta get up, go to work. You know, I just basically screaming at whatever this thing was. And after I did that, it never did it anymore. It just quit. People banging it up. We checked up in the attic and everything. We thought maybe somebody was, you know, squatting in the attic. Nothing was there. Can't explain that. I thought I'd seen him one day. It was an elderly man. I can describe. He had a pair of khaki slacks and a plaid shirt. And other people that had seen him described him exactly like that as well. And had seen him in there. So I mean, how do you explain explain something like that, you know? A lot of people don't believe in ghosts, but how do you explain something? Like, not everybody can share the same hallucination, especially when you don't say anything to somebody and they're coming there saying, was there a man here? No.
Cargo scope deployed.
How do you explain something like that? I've lived in several haunted places, actually. Maybe it's me they're attracted to.
Maybe.
You know?
You never can tell with these type of things.
No. I had one area in downtown Orlando called College Park. It's an older area. I think the homes were built around the 50s or 60s. I believe. Because they renovate a lot of them. A lot of them have the old parquet floors, or real parquet floors in them and stuff. They usually turn out beautiful when they renovate them. And I lived in a garage apartment. It was on a big lot. The main house was no longer there. It was just this little garage that they converted into an apartment. And that place was the most haunted place I've ever been in my life. You talk about doors opening, closing, wrapping on pipes, objects moving. When I moved in, I'd open the blinds up, we'd go make a trip and stuff, come back home, and all the blinds would close. To the point where I yelled at the boyfriend at the time, I'm like, why do you keep shutting the blinds? I want to, I want the blinds open, quit shutting them. Shut the blinds. We left, like the final trip that we left, and I mean, I'm looking at them blinds. I said, they're open. We leave. I come back, they're all shut again. I'm like, what in the hell? That place was crazy haunted. I'd always dream about, I'd wake up in my dream, I would wake up in bed, and all around me, everything would be on fire.
Frameshift drive charging.
And then I found out after the fact that the main house had in fact burnt down. So it made me think that maybe it was a ghost of people who lived on the property there or something. And I'd always called it the ghost or whatever it was in the house. I gave it a name of Frank. And I had a friend of mine over one day, and he's like, he was at the sink washing his hands. We were getting ready to go somewhere. He's like, what? Why would you call me that? I'm like, what? He says, why'd you call me Frank? He said the name, and let me tell you something. I didn't tell that man about my freaky ghost story, He just pulled that name out of the blue, which really freaked me out. That place was crazy haunted, though. And then, of course, you guys know my dark saying story, so that's all I can think of offhand right now.
Wow, here's the real ghost story of Kate Morgan, beautiful stranger. It was 1892, when Kate Morgan was grown and capable 24-year-old woman. During California's notorious Hotel de Coronado, she checked into the resort on Thanksgiving Day. Some say she never checked out. Employees recalled that Morgan said she was waiting for a gentleman to join her. After 5 days as a guest, the ghost story goes, nobody showed, and Morgan shot herself in the head. When nothing was found at the scene to identify her, police telegraphed her description to authorities around the country. The media dubbed her the beautiful stranger for her description, and it was soon discovered she had an estranged husband. Her gentleman caller, it was presumed, was a lover. Morgan was also reportedly pregnant when she killed herself. Before her suicide, Morgan worked as a household caretaker in an affluent suburb of Los Angeles. During her travel to the hotel, onlookers saw her visibly spar with an unidentified male. He got off mid-route and abandoned her, leaving Morgan melancholy upon her arrival. Though unclear whether this figure was her husband or not, Morgan sorrowfully wandered into town to procure a pistol. According to Beautiful Stranger, the ghost of Kate Morgan in the Hotel de Coronado, there's no shortage of people who reported paranormal activity in the hotel. Guests have experienced flickering lights, a rogue television, and a change of temps. It only appears out of nowhere and vanishes just as inexplicably. Doors have opened and shut on their own. Footsteps and voices have been heard, but no people have been seen. Because human curiosity knows no bounds, Morgan's room has been the most requested room of them all. Even a group of independent paranormal researchers stayed there to document the so-called hauntings.
Fuel scooping.
The team employed infrared cameras, night vision goggles, radiation sensors, indicators for toxic chemicals, microwave imaging systems, and high-frequency sound detectors. Though Morgan stayed in room 3327, formerly room 302, her apparition has appeared elsewhere. There have been several sightings in room 3519, formerly room 3502, and intended for maids. For instance, guests have reported objects moving independently. Stranger still, the hotel owner's mistress, also killed herself at the resort after discovering she was pregnant. Of course, countless guests had already reported seeing her, both in the hallways and by the beach. The hotel gift shop, too, has seen unexplained phenomenon, with items flying off shelves and often landing right side up. Ultimately, it's unclear what exactly is going on at the hotel. An elaborate ruse by management, buyer's remorse on behalf of guests, or possible real paranormal activity in plain sight. Yeah, that's the story. Oh, Kate Morgan. Or Kate Morgan. Now, she did die under mysterious circumstances. She was born in Fremont County, Iowa, in the year 1864. Her mother died September 23rd, 1865. At the age of 2, she was sent to live with her maternal grandfather. November 9th, 1870, her father, George Washington Farmer, was appointed to be postmaster of Hamburg, Iowa. He remarried in 1871, fathered 2 more daughters, then moved to Texas, where he died in 1876. On December 30th, 1885, Kate married Thomas Edward Morgan. They had 1 child, a boy, born October 30th, 1886. He lived only 2 days. Around 1890, Kate Morgan ran off with Albert Allen, a stepson of Thomas's stepmother, Emily Dennison Allen Morgan. The relationship did not also appear to not have lasted, although there were very few records of Morgan's life at the time. The next time she was reported sighted, she was ill and alone. Her next appearance was at the Hotel Coronado in 1892. She arrived in late November, checking under the name of Mrs. Lottie A. Bernard Detroit. Staff reported she seemed ladylike, beautiful, reserved, and well-dressed, but troubled and very melancholy. She was found dead on November 29th, 1892, on the exterior staircase of the Hotel del Coronado, leading to the beach, of what was believed to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the head. This was 5 days after checking into the hotel. A San Francisco lawyer, Alan May, speculated in the 1980s her death involved foul play. Evidence for the alleged homicide was a passing statement during the coroner's inquest, but the bullet found in her head did not match that of her own gun.
Fuel scooping.
There have been many ghost sightings and other potential paranormal events at the Hotel del Coronado since. The official Hotel Coronado website even mentions the ghosts. The hotel's Heritage Department has published an official book on the subject, written by the hotel's professional historian, titled Beautiful Stranger, The Ghost of Kate Morgan at the Hotel del Coronado. It avoids speculation on this research of historical documents available in local public libraries, historical societies, and university libraries, as well as City Hall and police files. The Heritage Department book leans towards the official suicide verdict. There are 3 other books available. John T. Cullen's written 2, the first updated in 2008, Dead Move, Katie Morgan and the Haunting Mystery of Coronado, 2nd edition, is a non-fiction account of the mystery. His second, Lethal Journey, a novel published in August of 2009. The 3rd book is The Ghost of the Hotel del Coronado, the true story of Kate Morgan, by Terry Girodot. Kate's husband, Tom Morgan, was the half-brother of Girodot's maternal grandmother. His book contains full versions of all the articles from the San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco newspapers from that period, along with documents from his genealogy research, including the original telegram sent to Tom advising him of Kate's suicide. Tom's granddaughter provided him with the photograph of Kate seen on this page. There's a photograph of her. Let's take a look at the infamous Kate Morgan. Said to haunt the Hotel Del Coronado. There she is.
Sad.
Ghostly.
Sad.
Well, she doesn't seem to have many reasons to be happy.
Mm-mm.
Hello, Mecca.
Hey,
Hey, Mecca.
I finally got here.
We're just looking at the a photo here of Kate Morgan, the ghost of the Hotel Del Coronado in California. She
Ooh.
reported suicide after stood up by a lover.
Fuel scooping complete.
I think I've heard of her. I'm pretty sure I've
Yeah.
heard of her. All the ghost shows do all the
She's
famous ones.
Frameshift drive charging.
Yeah, these are famous ones we're looking at today.
That's one of the theories that like a traumatic death and stuff will kind of cause an imprint.
4, 3,
I kind of see it more like a visual sort of thing where it's like the harder you throw a ball, the farther it goes, and I think that's kind of like the energy stuff too, like the bigger amount of it. Because something more traumatic is going to produce a greater amount of energy. So,
That's a good analogy, Mecca.
and I think a lot of substances and elements in the earth can kind of record things too.
Yeah.
Maybe not in a way that you can measure, but you know, if you touch,
The stone tape theory.
yeah.
Yeah, it's something we talked about not too long ago. Was because it was something new that I'd never heard of before. The stone tape theory. That's exactly what you're talking about here. The idea that these objects and items can record events and then play them back at another time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
And it might not even be like the verbatim event, but the energy of the event, or you know, you'll feel like you can walk into a room and you can kind of feel a weird sadness or feel a weird feeling sometimes, and I think some of that is due to, and I think there's like a coalition between like electromagnetic energy and spiritual energy for real, but I think a lot of the time people who are out there with like an EMF detector, they're not understanding like the right sort of thing. They're just out there looking for a needle in a haystack sort of thing. Like I don't think it's nearly precise enough to tell the difference between like your natural earth magnetic fields and then, you know, some sort of a magnetic energy imprint somewhere in the air that might pop in through a slight fluctuation in a dimensional sort of thing. And it's hard to explain. I can see it in my head a little easier than I can put it into words, but
Fuel scoop disengaged.
Like a sensitive person can sense things
Yeah.
like that.
well, yeah. And it's like for me today, I've had sinus pressure all day, and there's probably going to be a storm coming in soon, or a storm leaving, or whatever. I can't remember. Yeah, and like how animals will flee an area if a storm is coming,
Earthquake.
or an earthquake, or a tsunami, or yeah.
4, 3,
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah, those animals run to high ground.
They know.
They can sense
It's
the magnetic field of the earth.
Yeah, it's instinct.
Say yes.
Something we lost a connection to, I believe.
Yeah. So we started putting rubber on our feet. Yep.
fuel scooping.
Souls, worm souls.
I have been barefoot for months, and it is so weird putting on shoes to walk out to take the trash out.
Isn't that
It
funny?
just feels so weird.
I'll never forget when I was a kid. I went camping for 2 weeks. And when I got home, the weirdest thing was walking on carpet. Because I was barefoot the whole time. Distinctly remember that coming home. That's so weird.
Look at comment. Can your soul be lost forever if a demon takes it, eats it, or absorbs it? Well, I think the closest to that is the archons, and then you just get recycled back to Earth as
Fuel
reincarnated.
scoop disengaged. Frameshift
It's like a
drive
prison.
charging.
The Archons eat your soul and recycle it. And when it comes back to Earth, then you're born again. Because of those damn Archons. Servants, the demiurge.
3, 2,
No, I think we might have some sort of a spiritual memory, because there's too many like reincarnation sort of anecdotes and incidents that made me think, okay, there's something to this. Even if we're not a specific person coming back, you might be able to pick up on that emotional spiritual energy when, like, before you're born or after you die or whatever. And then I think we do some sort of come back, but I don't know if we come back specifically as one specific being.
Now, Deranged Lunatic for $2 is saying, Mecca, you explained it pretty darn good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Deranged. Much appreciated.
I try. I'm
Yeah.
kind of dumb though.
Pretty spot on, I think.
You are not. Stop that. Far from dumb.
Ugh. So I got another haunting here. The this one has to do with the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine.
Okay.
James Wan's 2013 horror film The Conjuring introduced mainstream audiences to the true story of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren and their horrifying experiences with the Perron family. The true ghost story, though, may be even scarier than the film. According to USA Today, Lorraine Warren consulted on the movie and was adamant that it was true to what happened to her and the Perron family. The things that went on there were just so incredibly frightening, she said. It still affects me to talk about it today. Neurologist Stephen Novello, president of the New England Skeptical Society, however, investigated the couple and is convinced they fabricated the whole thing. The Warrens are good at telling ghost stories, he simply stated. The Perrons' alleged haunting began in January 1971 when they moved into their new farmhouse built in 1736 in Harrisville, Rhode Island. Carolyn and Roger Perron and their 5 daughters began to notice strange occurrences almost immediately. Oddly enough, they continued to live there for 9 years. Andrew Perron was 12 years old at the time and claimed the film was a beautiful tapestry with many elements of truth to it and some moments of fiction. Little did the Perron family know, the 200-acre home was said to have once been inhabited by a young woman named Bathsheba Thaler and her 4 children. The town labeled Thayer a Satanist who allegedly hanged herself from a tree in the backyard. The Perrons were allegedly attacked by her spirit. Some of these incidents were harmless. Some claim she never lived there at all. Other incidents on the property, however, were fairly violent. The Perron children allegedly played into chores with some of the spirits. Thayer's ghost was not as friendly. She purportedly moved furniture to scare the new tenants, appeared fully at times, and as depicted in the film, haunted the family's matriarch most of all. Carolyn Perron was allegedly pinched and forcefully slapped by Thayer's ghost. Whoever the spirit was, she perceived herself to be mistress of the house, and she resented the competition my mother posed for that position, said Andrea Perron. The Warrens were hired to help in 1974, but the Perrons eventually asked them to leave after Carolyn Perron became temporarily possessed. Her daughter allegedly witnessed this firsthand. I thought I was going to pass out, she said. My mother began to speak a language not of this world with a voice not her own. Her chair levitated and she was thrown across the room. Both my mother and I would just as soon swallow our tongue than tell a lie. People are free to believe whatever they want to believe, but I know what we experienced. The so-called Conjuring house, where the Perrons experienced the paranormal, has recently been bought by 2 new owners. The fearless couple said they haven't felt anything evil in the house, though it is certain.
I never believe anything related to Ed and Lorraine Warren though, because didn't they have stuff to do with The Conjuring? So
Yeah, they sort of proved them to be
Yeah, I
wrong.
always kind of poo-poo them too myself, so. I did.
And she was heavily involved with paranormal state.
Joseph Aldrich for $1.99. Thank you, Joseph Aldrich. Much appreciated. Joseph Aldrich says, come to Maine. We got ghosts, pot, and guns.
Sounds like a good time, Joseph.
Hey, we got ghosts and pot here too.
And I'm sure guns too.
Yeah, there's hunters and stuff.
Now, I got some other ghost stories here. In 1992, the properties of Louisiana's Myrtles Plantation, proprietress of Louisiana's Myrtles Plantation, photographed the property as part of an insurance company requirement. Something remarkable happened. In between two of the buildings, a figure appeared. A dark female shape stood upright. The St. Francisville site naturally had a cruel history of slavery, and today is considered one of the most haunted places in America. According to the Myrtles Plantation website, even a film crew for the National Geographic Explorer agreed the photo contained what looked like the ghost of a slave girl. They recommended using it as a postcard, which the plantation did. Though her shape is clearly silhouetted between the general store and the butler's pantry of the property, the exterior boards of the house are just as visible. She's partially transparent, partially opaque, and entirely glaringly present in the photograph. So here's that picture. You can take a look.
I
Aside
wonder
from
if it's so well known. They use it as part of their advertising campaign, huh?
That looks like a shadow of the post. Just
Yeah,
a
well,
little bit.
if you enlarge it, you can see her dress, and
Mm.
you know what I mean.
He's a double
Have you seen that
exposure then, maybe?
Possibly, yeah.
Because it
Pretty
still just
creepy
looks like a
looking.
fence post to me. It doesn't even look like a woman. It looks too skinny to be a woman.
Well, it's because she's like standing behind.
Just like a shadow. Looks like it could be anything.
She's standing behind it, like sort of peeking around.
If it was a ghost, it would be 3-dimensional and have shape. It wouldn't look like it was a 2D thing set out there.
You said you need a close up. It's like she's wearing like a schmuck with a, you know, like a dress with the. You see the dark arm.
See, I see kind of like an obelisk shape with like another sort of obelisk shape for, I guess, where the arm would be, and then the head is kind of just like a acorn shape almost.
Yeah.
That's what I
see
see.
a close up of that picture. It looks different though than just a shadow.
But still, I mean, if you zoom it up so much, it's gonna pixelate or it's gonna get really fuzzy. I mean, there's no detail at close up. When was this taken?
in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, the 90s. In May 1995, a patent researcher named Norman Benoit visited the site to do some rigorous analysis of the potentially paranormal incident. He found that this was indeed the image of a person who was simply not present at the time the photograph was taken. He enlarged it, increased the contrast, and found the dimensions and proportions of the figure were entirely in line with human measurements. The postcard has since been dubbed the Chloe postcard, named after the young slave who was said to have caught the attention of the plantation's owner, Clark Woodruff. As the story goes, Chloe's proposition by Woodruff into a sexual relationship. Seeing as she was a slave, Chloe had no choice in the matter. Was deathly afraid Mrs. Woodruff would find out. So she began eavesdropping on Mrs. Woodruff. She was caught one day and had her ear cut off as punishment. For revenge, she slipped poison into the family's food. Mr. Woodruff and the two of her kids promptly died. The other slaves, afraid they'd be seen as co-conspirators by the surviving Mr. Woodruff, hanged Chloe from a tree. Then they cut her down and threw her body into the river. Some believe her spirit lived on, stalking the grounds. Since the 1970s, the plantation was purchased by the Myers family and has been turned into a bed and breakfast. Ghostly apparition ghosts have been reported there ever since. Even before American slavery, the property was built on top of a Hindu burial ground, which reportedly led to sightings of Native American women's ghosts in the gazebo centuries later. William Winter, a man killed in Myrtle's plantation, has also been seen. Of course, there's no scientifically accredited way of confirming whether or not a ghost has been captured on film. Thus, only stories from one highly ominous photograph remain. wondering if there's more images of that.
That one.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it closer, and there's actually a lot more detail. See right there. Unless the image was enhanced, but I just remember you can tell that it's a woman. It's a pretty famous photo as far as ghosts go.
As far as ghosts go, they go all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way. Taking it to the streets. That's what the ghosts are doing. They're taking it to the streets. Now, here's something we talked about before. The legend of the Winchester Mystery House has endured for more than a century, especially when a film starring Helen Mirren brought the tale into popular consciousness. It's a story of love, loss, and a good dose of lunacy. Sarah Winchester was the widow of William Witt Winchester, heir to the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, and she was born into privilege in 1840. The tragedy struck when Sarah Winchester's husband and infant daughter died. She promptly visited a spiritual medium who told her these misfortunes were revenged by the evil spirits of those who were killed by Winchester rifles. The only solution, she believed, was to build a home big enough to protect her from those evil spirits. She inherited over $500 million by today's standards, as well as half the company, and was thus more than capable of doing so. She left New Haven, Connecticut for sunny San Jose, California, and got to work building a mansion that could confuse the paranormal. It said Sarah Winchester's intention was to build a home that could confuse the spirits and protect her from them. Winchester never did confirm her true intentions for the house, but builders say they had daily seances during construction. She allegedly tried to reach out to good spirits in order to consult them on how to best appease those who haunted her. Ultimately, the project would take 38 years to complete. The 160-room home had 2,000 doors, 10,000 windows, 47 stairways, 47 fireplaces, 13 bathrooms, and 6 kitchens. The house featured secret passageways, upside-down columns, rooms that were sealed off, and staircases that led nowhere.
A giant stained glass window in the middle of a area where it can't ever get sunlight.
Even the bathrooms were meant to confuse them, as only 1 out of 13 worked.
You know what I thought was interesting about that story, Pete, is that she went to a psychic, and what do fraud psychics do? They take advantage of people, play on their emotions and losses, right?
Yep.
Think of all the money that she dumped into doing all that crap with the house. Wouldn't you think that the psychic wouldn't have tried to get more money out of her instead of instructing her to continue building? That's what was always interesting to that story.
That's a very good point.
You know what I mean? Why wouldn't a psychic, if she was a fraud, tell her, you keep paying me, then I'm going to keep you in touch with, keep these spirits at peace, other than for wasting money on building supplies and workers.
See, I'm going to go a little sillier and just say I hope this lady never had guests over. Because if only 1 in 13 bathrooms actually functions, it's a guessing game. I don't know who's cleaning this shit up, but it ain't me.
Despite a 1904 earthquake, the house was built on a floating foundation that saved it from destruction.
Wow.
The top 3 floors were removed, unfortunately, leaving it with only 4 stories today. After Winchester's death, September of 1922, the legend of the Winchester Mystery House only grew larger. Winchester's niece Marion inherited all of her belongings, which she then promptly auctioned off. Only 5 months after Winchester's death did her home open to the public for tours. Nearly a whole century later, in 2016, a secret attic was discovered. 2 years later, the eponymous Winchester movie was filmed at the actual house. Despite the fact that not a single paranormal investigator has captured anything remotely extraordinary, visitors continue to report feeling the presence of spirits.
You have a relevant super chat. Time sensitive. for comedic
Joseph
value.
Walter for $1.99. Thanks, Joseph Walter. Thank you very much. Joseph says the psychic husband was a contractor,
Now that makes sense.
but she moved. She left Connecticut and went to California.
Well, then she's just a shitty psychic. Psychic being from the old Greek, meaning to fleece.
Ow! Oh, I just bopped my knee. Okay, I'll be all right.
Well, you know, 10 years ago, fell off the stage. I'm fine. I think I'm gonna be okay, everybody.
I did that today too, trying to pull the seat up in the car. Of course, it had to be the screwed up knee. Thank you. Crack.
So here's another ghost story, everybody. If you're eager to experience the paranormal, there's no better way than to visit an establishment built atop a pagan burial ground. That's exactly what happened with the ancient Ram Inn in Watton-under-Edge, Gloucestershire, England. A former priest residence built in 1145. The inn is not only the oldest building in town, but also situated precisely where two ley lines meet. Ley lines are believed to be supernatural lines that connect the world's monuments in a significant alignment. Some claim the inn's positioning along these two ley lines coincidentally leads directly to England's Stonehenge, and must thus be a place of strong spiritual energy. Combined with a 5,000-year-old pagan burial ground beneath its floors, the ancient Ram Inn certainly has the makings of a paranormal place. The inn formerly housed slaves and workers who built the nearby St. Mary's Church. Streams on the inn's ground had to be rerouted around the church's site, and many believe this diversion of water is in part responsible for exposing the area to dark energy. As if that wasn't enough, the inn is also purportedly haunted by a witch who sought shelter there before being caught and murdered. She was burned to the stake in the 1500s and is now said to haunt the room she once stayed in, aptly called the Witch's Room. The inn's sole owner and occupant, John Humphreys, claims he was first introduced to the inn's incorporeal occupants on his first night as owner in 1968. He said he had just gone to sleep when a demonic presence ripped him out of bed by his arm and pulled him across the room. Now in his 80s, he's committed the rest of his life to maintaining the inn rather than running away from it, which most of us probably would have done a century ago. Perhaps most depressing is the fact that Humphrey's wife and 3 daughters decided to do just that, leaving him alone on the property.
It's completely insane.
Did you? They did that on Adventures, on an episode of Ghost Adventures.
I can't leave my haunted
And
house.
that dude he looks crazy as a loon. God love him. Place is all old and dilapidated, and he's been there for a long time. Long time. Anybody remember that episode of Ghost Adventures?
No, I never watched that.
Do you see it, Mecca?
Refresh my memory on it.
The Ram. What's it called again?
Oh, the Ramshead Inn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember that one?
Yeah, that weird old guy who. Yeah, they had. They do that satanic ritual in there.
Yeah, that's right. They did. Yeah, they did like a
Or something, or a witch ritual. It was a witch ritual. It wasn't satanic.
Right. Yeah. And Aaron was freaking out.
Aaron's always freaking out.
I know. He's funny.
Oh my god! It was just every fucking his
I know.
expression.
I know. He looks terrified. He's so funny. He's so animated.
He used to always come to the mall where I worked at in Vegas.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, all of the Ghost Adventure guys did.
Oh, that is cool.
They lived out there, so
Yeah,
they're on that side of town where I was at.
that is cool. I'd like that. That'd be fun to meet them.
I never got to, but I know 2 people who said on 2 different occasions that someone from Ghost Adventures was in the store. 2 different stores that I worked at too.
I'm sure that guy.
Oh, this
Sweet.
sad I didn't get to see the Haunted Museum.
I
Every time I was
know.
out in Vegas. I was going
I
to the
know.
last time, but I got so sick.
I know. I so wanted to go back.
Joseph Alder for $1.99 says, "Do the white lady stuff." I don't get it.
Is that that's another ghost? I
Thank
think.
you, Joseph.
Does that involve dropping tacos?
Could be. Going Joseph. You never know.
There's been a lot of ghosts there, ladies in white.
Frameshift drive charging. 4.
Well, just because of how the energy field appears, like, visually to your eye.
You know,
Might be
never
as
after
if-
Labor Day.
Hmm?
Never after Labor Day, though.
That's right.
I don't know why.
Unless you're in Florida, nobody gives a shit. White year round.
It's because it's 90 degrees year round.
Dennis Martin just says,
Exactly.
cocaine. Hell yeah, Joe. Totally different.
Wow, that's loud. Freaking sound.
Oh, those I love.
That's funny. Rebecca.
That's come through my microphone too, not through
I
it.
know.
This
It's
is pretty.
funny.
It's way louder than I thought it would be.
No, it was perfect.
I have
Dude,
handy
Walter-
things that usually think they come in handy and they come up in topic enough.
Right? Right?
Joseph Alder for $1.99. Thanks again, Joseph Alder. Much appreciated. It says, "Nah, it's a standard ghost hitchhiker dead bride."
Frameshift drive
Yeah.
charging.
White ghost. Ghost and white.
The lady in white. It's a lot of
I like this-
around.
I like that story about, with the picking up the girl and she forgets her sweater,
Mm-hmm.
and then you find the sweater hanging on the tomb, find the sweater hanging on the tombstone, tomb, whatever. Always like that.
Well, there's supposed to be one of those girls that appears outside of a certain cemetery somewhere.
Yeah, it's in LA, right?
Yeah, I thought it was California, so probably yes.
Wait, are we talking about Resurrection Mary?
Yeah, imagine having a. I think so.
I think so.
It sounds pretty familiar.
Sounds right, Pete.
But imagine having a ghost in your car.
Freak.
Tell Marge sent you.
Yeah.
Except for
I'd
when
be a
she's
little
in the
freaked out.
car. When she's in the car, though, you don't know that she's a ghost, though. She looks real, like a real human.
What if you try to fuck her?
Well,
She disappears.
demon and
You're like,
rip your throat out. Yeah. So you're
Like,
skeleton
okay, poltergeist.
behind
Sorry, didn't know you were identified as a poltergeist.
Resurrection Mary is a well-known Chicago area ghost story of the vanishing hitchhiker type. The type of folklore that is known from many cultures. The urban legend is based outside the Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois, a few miles southwest of Chicago. Resurrection Mary is considered to be Chicago's most famous ghost.
That's why we think in California.
There was a similar account of a woman that can be seen hiking up the side of the road near a cemetery up in California. I think I know there's one out there. I just can't remember any more details than that.
Anyways, please continue, Pete.
Since the 1930s, several men driving northeast along Archer Avenue between the Willingbrook Ballroom and Resurrection Cemetery
Drive charging.
have reported picking up a young female hitchhiker. This woman is dressed somewhat formally in a white party dress and said to have light blonde hair and blue eyes. There are other reports that she wears a thin shawl, dancing shoes, carries a small clutch purse, possibly that she's very quiet. When the driver nears Resurrection Cemetery, the young woman asks her to get out, whereupon she disappears into the cemetery. According to Chicago Tribune, full-time ghost hunter Richard Crowe has collected 3 dozen substantiated reports of Mary from the 1930s to the present.
Oh.
The story goes that Mary had spent the evening dancing with a boyfriend at the O. Henry Ballroom. At some point, they got into an argument and Mary stormed out. She left the ballroom and started walking up Archer Avenue. She had not gotten very far when she was struck and killed by a hit-and-run driver who fled the scene, leaving Mary to die. Her parents found her and were grief-stricken at the sight of her dead body. The buried her in Resurrection Cemetery wearing a beautiful white dress, matching dancing shoes. The hit-and-run driver was never found. So that was the story of Resurrection Mary. So can ghosts, demons, and shadow people interact with each other but make common tasks? I believe so. Yeah.
Why not?
I don't see
Yeah,
that.
I'd say yeah.
SunnyCat85 for $5. Thank you, SunnyCat. Much appreciated. SunnyCat says, "Smash that like button, boys." Thank you, SunnyCat. Much obliged.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just because we have more thumbs up than people watching right now doesn't mean you don't have to still.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. It's a very good point.
Frameshift drive
So
charging.
here's one that Mecca's familiar with. The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, is less than 6 miles from Rocky Mountain National Park. Perhaps more notable, of course, is its literacy, cinematic, and paranormal appeal made infamous by Stanley Kubrick's 1980.
Yeah, my son just watched The Shining for the first time. He rather enjoyed that. I was like, it's a real place, but it's not the place that it is in the book. It's a real hotel, though. He's like, really? He's like, yeah, my friend Mecca stayed there.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. I get to stream from there.
Because, like, it still looks so good when Nicholson's running through the maze at the end. Like, it looks so good.
Well,
Like,
that's
definitely held up
that's
on
different. They filmed in a different place. The place that they filmed, or when they filmed it, the miniseries, it was here.
But I enjoyed the miniseries.
Come on, focus. I don't want to focus on my pen. Estes Park. Yeah, we stayed up there. Rob and I stayed up there. It was creepy. It's spooky. You can walk into it. We were there in November, and it was super empty, pretty much. And they have the third floor, or the fourth floor rather, has like the tricycle. Has that tricycle? Let me see if I can share it. Let me see if I can tweet it to you guys. I'll tweet it in the group so we can post some pictures. It's got one of those little tricycles just in the floor, or on the floor rather. It's the second floor feels a lot more haunted to me. It was a lot colder. It's really old and creaky. It's got really old windows and really old window panes. It's got really old pipes. But the Wednesday that we stayed there, it just felt like energy was just building and building and building and building and building, and then nothing. And then it just kind of all of a sudden stopped. And I even felt a fist kind of lean next to my pillow where there was nobody. So on my other side of me where there was nobody. It was weird. Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird experience, but it was cool though. And you can walk into the parts of it, like the music room that's supposed to be super haunted, and that also had kind of that really weird energy there. So like the rest of the hotel is like fine, and then like, oh, this feels different. you can just kind of sense it. Let me send a couple of these over. It was fun. We were up there 2 days. There was no hot water. Hardly.
I can't believe that part though. That sucks.
Well, I mean, it's so far up in the mountains. They don't have air conditioning up there either. Here's a picture of the. Here it is.
So they never have hot water?
Over Twitter here.
They never have hot water there?
Oh, they have hot water. It just wasn't hot. The bathroom door didn't really lock or close all the way.
Yeah, that's irritating. Especially what you pay to stay there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's us in front of the in front of the Stanley. Here, I'm sending a few pictures. We can screen share them over the from the DMs.
Yeah, I'm pulling them up right now.
And I'm sending. It keeps losing my place of where I'm grabbing them from. It keeps skipping me. Oh, where's the elevator? Is this the video of where the elevator? Yeah. No, that's just a photo. So that's the 4th floor.
System scan complete.
And there's Rob in front of the room that Stephen King stayed in.
Back to that, the previous one is your the tricycle. You can barely see it, but it'll point that out. People caught that or not.
Yeah, you just kind of go up the stairs and like, oh, that's a creepy tricycle. That's a super creepy thing.
Frameshift drive
I must have lost half of my, or moved them. Let me see if I can find any more. Yeah, they just have it up there for reasons.
Sure.
4, 3, 2,
Well, it's spooky and it's.
Yeah. It's fun.
See if I can find any of the videos. So that's the Stanley behind us. That's stupid Rob. Oh yeah, here's the grand entryway, sort of. It's like the stairway. I'm uploading it now. Hopefully it'll actually do it. Good, I'm on the internet and not on. Alright, it's sending. Hopefully it'll be able to let you play a video. But yeah, that's the room that Stephen King stayed in.
Okay.
That's that 2 whatever. We were down the hall.
237 or something like that.
Yeah,
What
like
is it?
237 or whatever it was supposed to be. How much is it a night? Off season during the week it was $250 a night, which is still pretty damn expensive. The murder room, basically, which isn't a murder room, but the Stephen King room is more money, obviously. That one was closer to. Yeah, if you want to play that video, I think that's okay. So, the creepy elevator, maybe? Yeah, creepy elevator. I'll give you the creepy elevator. It's got a really creepy elevator, too.
Old elevators are always creepy.
Mm-hmm.
You never know if you're gonna make it or not.
Well, it only goes 2 floors, or 4 floors, basically. There's the basement and then the 2nd floor. Yeah, so this is like right on the 2nd floor landing, I guess.
Okay.
Pretty much the whole town is like this. It's all these old buildings. Oh yeah, and that direction, you have to have the key to be able to get into there, into the guest area.
Okay.
Great woodwork.
I know, right, Jesse?
And there's the old elevator.
Look at all the wood. Yeah.
And there was like a ballroom there that doesn't
That's cool.
that didn't have open then. But yeah, it was November. All right, there's one more. There's the creepy spooky elevator.
Pretty cold in there, right?
It was cold. It was pretty cold. The heater was going though, but yeah, you just hear the heater kick in and kick on and kick on, and every little noise and creak and everything you could hear.
Sure. I can imagine.
Let's see, do I have any more? I think I have the view. Oh, here's where. Yeah, here's the spooky.
Did you say the second
It's really tiny.
Yeah, because it's old school.
Yeah, it's like, is that like brass?
drive charging.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Right, it's uploaded in the next one of the haunted music room. I did get one little bit of video there. So that's on its way. Let me find the other one. It's kind of odd. It's such an odd empty place too up there. You go up and like the key is backwards, like it is in the movie. It's really cool.
beautiful.
I know, right?
All right, here's one more. I think talking about the weird energy spike I was feeling too.
Fuel scooping.
Do the next one. But yeah, that piano's supposed to be really haunted too.
And now no more heebie-jeebies. Now it's just gone. And that's what was happening all last night too. It's like you just you feeling and then nothing.
Oh yeah, the one I'm sending you right now is right before where I was like feeling a really weird sensation, like right the second I got up there. So yeah, that one should be uploaded. The last one there. I'm ready for technology. But yeah, so I was walking up towards that, and I was feeling all that weird energy, and then it just stopped.
So strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so here, normal. Right here by the piano, normal. Right here, heebie-jeebies. Just weird energy, weird electricity, weird energy. Yeah, so that's supposed to be the haunted place. I can tell why.
The cool windows and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it would kind of feel like you wouldn't really notice it. Like your average normal person probably won't notice it, but if you're kind of sensitive to that stuff, it feels like you're driving, or like you're just noticing the subway stopping or the train stopping, because like you have that train track feeling only around you in electricity and in energy form.
Okay.
So and then it just stops, and that's how I was really noticing, because you have like a weird creepy icky feeling the whole time you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Sideways Mecca, yeah.
That's so cool you got to go there.
Yeah, at least I got to do something. I didn't get to go to Japan, but at least I got to go there.
No, I know. That's somewhere me and my cousin always wanted to go to, though, Stanley Hotel. But never did.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for her. Or you don't have to. You don't have to. See, now you can like take off and take a vacation.
Fuck right. No, ain't that the
That's
truth?
That's what I need.
I know. I want to get a camper. Just go around, just different places all over the U.S.
I told Rob he's scared to fly out. That was the new thing. So he's scared to fly out because of COVID and all that shit. And I'm like, other people are flying. So I'm like, fine, just rent a car and drive out.
My neighbor went back to work. She's a stewardess. So she's on plane,
Yeah.
all day. Job.
Does it have the outdoor maze? They're growing the outdoor maze. It does. It's like just starting. I didn't get that much footage on this camera.
What did you say about the movie again, Mecca? About the maze in the movie? That it wasn't filmed there?
No, yeah, the maze of the movie. Well, the movie wasn't filmed at the hotel at all. The miniseries is.
Oh, okay.
And now they're just now building the maze. They're just now building it out front, in front of the building. But they have like a whole art sculpture walkway. They do weddings out there. They have reception areas. They have residency areas. They have like, you can rent, for a week, you can rent like basically a studio apartment with a kitchenette and bring all your hiking buddies and go into the mountains and stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's supposed to be like a wellness retreat. So.
That place must be beautiful for weddings.
Yeah. Like, it sent you the one of just the mountains.
Drive charging.
Let me see. Yeah, let's send you the one of just the mountains.
Yeah, I love mountains.
Here's just me filming Rob outside in front of the hotel. It was fucking freezing.
I imagine.
Alright. It's uploading.
Growing up in Florida, it's so flat. So I always love, and just get excited when I see mountains. And Christmas trees, which of course are just pines.
And we had a once in 10 year snowstorm that weekend too. And we ended up getting snowed in. We couldn't really do anything the whole week he was here. After that, because it snowed like 12 inches, and we never get snow that hard.
Wow.
All right, there's the last one. It's basically the view right in front of the hotel. If you want to share that
Fuel
one.
scooping.
It's pretty interesting though. It's a interesting place. It's kind of it's not at the top of a mountain. It's kind of but it kind of is, but it's like on the lower peak of all the peaks around it that are much higher. And it's got a mountain chart right there so you know which peak is which and and that's where the maze area is. It's like a little walkway maze.
Okay.
It doesn't they didn't have a fridge in the room, so I ended up opening the window and putting some Mountain Dew outside.
I love that. When we used to go to Virginia all the time, we could stop and there'd be like streams and you could just stick your beer in there.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, so there's the view. You see all the big higher peaks. And then there's the Stanley. And then that's the second house, I think, the secondary
That's
house.
what I'm doing.
That's pretty impressive too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Look at all that snow. Oh, it's
It had just
there.
started.
Oh,
He was 2 hours late. That was the second time he missed his flight, so he was like on the 2 hour later one. So we ended up going. I had to drive up the fucking canyon, up all the switchbacks, which they do show in the movie, like the actual mountain drive up there. So we're driving up all the switchbacks and all the hairpin curves and up the canyon. Right, was it starting to snow?
wow.
So I was getting a little nervous about other people. I'm like, I've driven this canyon in the dark at 3 a.m. in snowstorms before. This is fine. And we're going up, and it's just getting darker and darker.
Oh wow.
He was supposed to get there like right before the snow hit, and he didn't because I had just timed it just so. I'm like, well, I can't go home because my former roommate was still living here. So I'm like, okay. So the former roommate was going home for the holidays that week, but it wasn't. But we couldn't line it up correctly because Rob still had to go and spend Thanksgiving with his family. So we couldn't line it up perfectly. So he left that Wednesday before Thanksgiving then. But that means he got here that Wednesday. So that Wednesday, Thursday, we just stayed up at the Stanley. And then I think we stayed with my mom. And then I think we stayed with my mom at night. And then we came back here because that Saturday is when my former roommate then ended up going back to Wisconsin. So yeah.
I'd like to add something. I traveled for 6 months. Never in my life have I ever missed a flight.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
I missed a flight coming back from California once
Why?
because I didn't make it to the airport in time.
How do you...
See, the thing with Rob was with the flights that he missed, they were not his fault. The first one, or one of them, I think the first one was because the shuttle company never came.
Oh, damn. That
Yeah,
sucks.
so he never actually made it because he had the shuttle that he was going to call him and he never showed up. And then the second time, he got stuck in traffic coming in from Connecticut to New York.
That sucks.
Yeah.
If that's bad, it's just fucking bad. It
Yeah.
all depends on if one asshole decide to crash.
Frameshift drive charging.
And then when I fucking missed mine, it wasn't my fault. It was because they are having all these weird difficulties with the plane, and then they kept delaying it and kept delaying it and kept delaying it.
Oh, it was
And
like
then
a
they finally
connector
delayed it to the
flight?
next day.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that was awful. Yeah, in January I was there, and I was going from. I was supposed to be there that's like a Sunday, and that was the day when I got to the airport. I had it all planned. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get up at like 10. I'm gonna sleep in. I'm gonna be refreshed. I'm gonna get there at like 1:30 in the afternoon, and my flight was supposed to leave at noon, so or 1 or whatever it was. My flight was leaving at 1. It kept getting delayed, and every like hour, constantly. We didn't leave the airport until like 10 o'clock that night. By the time they finally sent us all home.
Damn. That sucks.
And then they just delayed it to the next morning. And then so I went home, slept for 3 hours, had a freaking panic attack and anxiety.
Sure.
And I'm like, I
Sure.
couldn't even go. I don't even want to go. I'm kind of glad I did though, because at least I got to go before March. And,
Yeah, no kidding. you
It's
order
just like
one
everything
computer,
that can go wrong with my life does go wrong. Pretty much everything there's every delay, every obstacle. It's like, can I just have a fucking break?
yeah,
Just have a
right?
fucking break
That's
for
what I'm
what?
always saying. Can I have a fucking break?
Sorry, I'm complaining. We went off the rails on that. But when you got to the Stanley, it was really
That's
cool,
all right. I
haunted,
mean,
and spooky, and
Stanley's exactly what we were talking about, so it was right on top.
yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah, at least we got there and we checked in on time. And it was like so spooky because you could hear every creak, and I felt somebody like pressing next to me on the pillow when there wasn't anybody.
That's the one. Yeah,
You know, like when somebody's just here, I'll mimic it. It's like when somebody comes in and like leans next to your pillow, like they're talking to you. You know?
they were gonna
Oh,
lean
that's
in and
not
give you a
creepy.
kiss goodnight, Mecca.
Oh,
That's what
ew!
they
Don't
were
tell me
gonna
that.
do, right?
Don't tell me that. It was so creepy.
I bet.
I am not in
It never.
Wisconsin. My former roommate went back. I'm in Colorado. I'm a lot closer to the Stanley.
Orbital flight
Yeah, it's
engaged.
beautiful up there too.
Yeah,
That little town by you is just. Oh, I love it.
I've got a lot of little towns up the mountains.
That
Well,
would
that
be an
brings us up to
awesome.
the end of the show, everybody.
Sorry. I'm
Oh, no,
sorry.
no problem. No problem. It's just that time of night. So that's what we got to do. We got to wrap it up. I really appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you all for tuning in night after night, day after day, as we delve into the world of weird. I want to say thank you to Mr. A, Joseph Aldrin, Deranged Lunatic, and Sunny Cat 85 for your generous super chats, and much appreciated. Never expected, but always appreciated. Thank you so very much. I want to thank my panel for being here. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for hanging with me tonight. Guys, check out the description of the video where you'll find links to my Twitter and my email if you need to get in touch with me. If you've got scary stories to share for the State of Fear series, tell me your scary stories from your neck of the woods. Teespring store, if you want to check out some of the awesome merch that we got up there, you can check that out. Patreon for my Patreon supporters, big thank you. And if you're in a position to become a Patreon supporter for just $1 a month, that's $1 a week. That's less than the price of a cup of coffee. And I hope you feel what we do here every night is worth $1 a week. And you're in a position financially to do so, please consider something else. Links to everybody else's channel down below. And as we do, this has been the Creepy Little Book Live. You've been listening to High Strangeness, the #1 late night paranormal podcast on YouTube. I've been your host, Pete. With me tonight, we're Team Tomazuski, Maca Random 42, and Jesse Miller at the Crow's Nest. And until tomorrow night, everybody, stay creeped out.
Docking permission authorized. You may proceed to landing pad 07.
Landing gear deployed.
Docking procedure completed. Ship secured. Greetings, Commander.